It's do or die. It's win or go home. It is the DLLS Mavs podcast, and it starts right now. DLLS Mavs postseason is presented by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code DLLS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Hello and welcome to the DLLS Mavs pregame show inside the very bright DLLS Sports Studio somewhere near downtown Dallas, Texas. My name is Bobby Corella. We got Tanner Rotman on the ones and twos, and we are joined as always by the GOAT, Tim Cato.
I'm a GOAT?
You're a GOAT of Mavs Twitter.
I saw a tweet the other day. I was like, before Gen Z came along, my GOAT is washed could only mean a good thing.
Yes.
For almost all of human history, my GOAT is washed had a very specific positive connotation. Thanks, Gen Z.
But now, only bad things.
And I'm not washed.
I hope, I think for the Mavs' sake, we got to hope that their GOAT isn't washed, whether that's Anthony Davis or P.J. Washington or Derek Lively or Daniel Gafford or, of course, the legendary Brandon Williams. The Mavs are in Memphis tonight to take on the Grizzlies. It's the 10 seed versus the 8 seed. The winner becomes the 8 seed and takes on OKC sometime on Sunday. The loser will either go home or stay home and face eternal shame. Over the next half hour or so, we will get you ready for tip-off here live on YouTube. Shout out to everyone already joining us in the chat. Wherever you're watching from, thank you for spending your Friday evening with us. After the pregame show, we are going to be completing a watch-along. Now, for those who know, our watch-alongs, it did not start very well. We got off to a pretty poor watch-along start this season. As of late, though, tremendous success. Our plus-minus on the watch-alongs these last couple games is like plus 40, plus 50. And so if you want the Mavs to win, you should be happy that we're streaming. If you want the Mavs to lose, you should still watch the stream anyway. It's Mavs Grizzlies tonight. A little stat preview, and then I'll hand it over to Tim Cato for some X's and O's. The Grizzlies won the season series 3-1. Granted, a lot of guys missed multiple games in this season series. Najee Marshall, the only Mavs player of note that played 3 games against the Grizzlies. He averaged 18.7 points and 8.7 rebounds in those games. P.J. Washington, in a pair of games, averaged 17.5, 9, and 6. Derek Lively played 2 games, averaged 15.5 points, 11.5 rebounds. Anthony Davis played against the Grizzlies twice this season, both of which came as a member of the LA Lakers. In those games, averaged 30.5 points and 15 boards. Of course, from Memphis, John Morant, 31 points and 6 assists. Jaren Jackson Jr. and Desmond Bane both averaged more than 20 points per game. And Scottie Pippen, who we'll talk a little bit more about later, he averaged 3 steals a game against the Mavs in 3 games. The Grizzlies this year, Tim and Tanner, are 14-25 against teams with winning records. The Mavs are just 16-28. There's a reason these guys are in the play-in and not the playoffs. But here's a little bit of a picture of the futility that Memphis has been experiencing or really performing, living out, carrying out over the last several months. The Grizzlies don't have a win against a Western Conference team with a winning record since January 30th. They only have 3 such wins in 2025, and their last win against a Western Conference team with a winning record that was more than 2 points came way back on December 19th. Okay, all in all this season, they have 6 wins total against winning West teams. The Mavs had 11 such wins, but none since the All-Star break. So on paper, this is looking like, oh my God, Tim, matchup of pretty mediocre teams. On the floor, though, there are a lot of talented players on both sides. And so what should we expect tonight?
Yeah, a little bit of movable object, stoppable force going on.
Indeed.
But I'd agree. There's a lot of talent. I think so much of this is going to come down to the big men. Memphis is a team that doesn't shoot a ton of threes, and they take a lot of shots, kind of short mid-range area, not quite at the rim. The 5, 7, 9 footers. That can go two ways. If you're really talented at that, and for Memphis, a lot of it is, some of it is Zach Edey, some of it is drives that just don't get all the way to the rim from Jaren Jackson, from Ja Morant, somebody who can just, when he's healthy and when he's at his best, he can just hover and float, and he doesn't need, because he jumps so high, he doesn't need to be finger rolling. He just kind of needs to drop it in from 5 feet. So
and it did just break Tim. Ja will play. He is in the starting lineup for Memphis.
Okay. We'll see how healthy he is.
Yep.
Like just because he's going to give it a go does not mean that he can plant well off that foot, and it does not necessarily mean his game is, going to. You can see how he might have a hard time adapting to physical discomfort. Just because it's not just that he's only a dunker. It's just that so much of his success comes from, his hang time, his verticality. But when a team shoots a lot kind of just before the rim, it can go either way. On one hand, theoretically, that means they can take shots before they get to the first line of Dallas's rim protection. But Dallas playing so big means that they just take up more space. When you've got 2 7-footers playing together, and Dallas will certainly start this game, with Anthony Davis and Derek Lively and Gafford Spellingham, there's just more room in the paint that's being taken up, and that is an area where all of a sudden, these pet shots that Memphis is very good at and used to taking, all of a sudden, might look a little bit different. It might look a little bit tougher. There might be hands where you don't expect an NBA team's defense to have hands, and where their presence is going to be. So, if Dallas is able to do that, I think the easiest way for Memphis, or what this game is really going to come down to, is how much their bigs. So that would be an example of Dallas's bigs exerting influence over Memphis and what they're trying to do. I think Memphis's bigs can do that just by shooting threes, and I could see Zach Edey just being somebody who can, he's certainly going to start this game, and with Dallas's starting lineup with Najee as the point guard, I think that's totally fine. It's not like there's anybody you're scared of him getting pulled out into the perimeter against. But Memphis really could just play Santi Aldama and Jaren Jackson and really try to stretch Dallas's big men out of the paint. Now, on the flip side, the problem is who's going to attack that? A gimpy Ja Morant, who may not be 100%. Is it going to be, Desmond Bane can do it to an extent, certainly. Scottie Pippen Jr. has been in the starting lineup. So there are players who can exploit that, but not having Ja at 100%, again, we'll see what he looks like out there. But potentially not having it at 100% might mean Dallas can get away with, their big men stretching out to the perimeter a little bit more. But I just really think that's where the game's going to be dictated from. Whichever team, if I think Dallas can get Zach Edey to sit down potentially. If they can't do that, if Zach Edey is super effective in this game, that means that the big lineups Dallas is going to play are going to be kind of neutralized. But if that happens, what I think Memphis will try to do is they're going to play their floor stretching, spacing fives and really try to get threes from those guys. And if they can do that effectively, Dallas might have to counter and take off one of the traditional centers and just have Anthony Davis out there for some stretches. So I think that's kind of like the punch, counter punch, counter punch. And we'll see where that ends up. I will say if Zach Edey is playing, he played 33 minutes against Golden State. I don't think 33 minutes of Zach Edey against Dallas means good things for Dallas. I don't think that means that they executed the game plan that they were hoping to.
It is one of those tricky things where ideally you're trying to play the other team's big off the floor because it means that you're spacing, you're probably hot from three, the ball's moving, everyone's zinging around and all that stuff. But for the Mavs, the smaller Memphis goes, the more it forces the Mavs to adjust. Now, granted, this is the playoffs or the postseason presented by Game Time. And so I think AD is going to be a little more comfortable with the demands of playing the five. But it's also one of those things where I think both teams are really potent when they do go small. Like Jaren Jackson at the 5 is really, really scary.
Yeah.
80 at the 5 for Memphis is probably really, really scary. And so I don't think either team wants the other team to go small, which means you probably don't want to play their big off the floor. It is this weird like push and pull. Both teams, playing a style of basketball that, we grew up watching as opposed to the modern NBA, as we see the very small Atlanta Hawks and the very small Miami Heat doing battle down the stretch in that game. The Mavs will start right after that. We will be doing a watch along again, so don't go anywhere after this show.
One other quick thing about Memphis, I think they're going to play a really short rotation. I think it's just going to be 8 players. With Jalen Wells not being out there, that's a player they trusted. Vince Williams Jr. has not looked good at all recently. And, Gigi Jackson behind him isn't somebody who scales down into a smaller role that well. And I think the players off the bench are going to be Luke Kennard, John Conchar, and Santi Aldama. And I think that might be it. With the possible exception, and I don't think Memphis would go here unless they go down, but the possible exception of Jay Huff, maybe tossing him out there.
Mavs killer.
He played great against the Mavs. Obviously a skeleton Mavs, but also skeleton Memphis Grizzlies. He played very well in that season finale. And as we talk about how much the big men and how they interact with each other and which set of front court kind of pushes and forces a change first, I do think that, if Memphis is down 10, if they're struggling, if they need a different look, Jay Huff is absolutely a different sort of look. But then again, their most prolific shooter is Jaren Jackson Jr. And Santi Aldama took 5 a year this season. It's not like, he is a reluctant shooter either. So I don't expect to see Jay Huff. It's possible, but I do think that we're going to see a really short bench. And obviously, Ja Morant and his health and how good he looks out there is, that's assuming that he's going to play his normal minutes. If that's not the case, then it might be the case that you got to play someone like Gigi Jackson or Vince Williams and hope that you just get a good scoring night, good shooting night from, 2 really talented wings, but guys who have not been as consistent, a little harder to rely on.
And as dynamic as Ja is, if he's really healthy, I think that will in many ways dictate the Mavs rotation. You might see more Caleb Martin, maybe more Brandon Williams, maybe even Spencer Dinwiddie, just to try and put someone out there that can maybe match his size and, come closer to matching his quickness. But if Ja is limited, we saw the other night against Sacramento with DeRozan and Levine and really no other guard play to speak of. Dinwiddie did not play. Caleb Martin barely played. Brandon Williams played quite a bit, but that's because he was cooking. The Mavs tonight are starting that same super big lineup of Najee at the nominal 1, Clay, PJ Washington, Anthony Davis, Derek Lively. It is the 4th time in the last 5 games, the one exception being that game that they punted against the Grizzlies. So really 4 straight games that they have used that starting 5. And get this, folks, it's the 4th time they've used this lineup. They only used 3 starting lineups more often than that one all season long. And the Mavs did not unveil it until game 80. That is what kind of season it's been. Holy smokes. Run down the injury report real quick before we hit an ad break. Kyrie out, Omax out for the Mavs. Everybody else is in. Anthony Davis was listed as a game-time decision. J-Kidd said he was, quote, just reading the script. So I think AD should be fine.
He said no setback.
No setback.
Yeah.
Okay. But everyone else came out of that game all right. For the Grizzlies, Ja Morant, like we said, is playing. He is starting. We will see how much playing and whether he can start hot or if it's going to be a struggle for him. Otherwise, it's just Brandon Clark and Jalen Wells that are out. Coming up next, we'll hit on some X factors and tie up any loose ends before game time here in the play-in. It is Mavs and the Grizzlies, and that is coming up right after this. Tim?
Oh, we don't do a...
We don't.
Yeah. Game time makes getting tickets easier and faster, even for hard-to-get playoff seats. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off, which is a clutch move. I cannot recommend more. Obviously, situational, circumstantial. But if you can be around an arena and try to sneak in the first quarter, It works. I know stories of people who have kind of gotten into really high demand games this way. They just kind of wait till the first quarter starts, and then all of a sudden, it's like $80 to get in the door. And Game Time, the Game Time app can help you with that. They have killer last minute deals, all in prices. They'll show you the view from your seat, and they have a lowest price guarantee. So Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA playoff tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code DLLS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code DLLS for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed.
Game Time. Ooh, my sleeper pick of the night. I'm deciding to take some chances tonight, folks. I got Klay Thompson, who's on sale for more than 11.5 points. Of course, he got fired the other night in Sacramento. Desmond Bane, I think he's going to score at least 20. That dude just always plays well against the Mavs. Anthony Davis, I'm taking him for less than 2.5 turnovers. I just don't think he's going to turn the ball over. I don't really know what else to say. Jaren Jackson Jr., I think he's going to get a lot of three-point looks tonight. I think he's going to make more than 2.5 of those. On Sleeper, the more you pick, the more you win, all the way up to 100 times your money. My multiplier on this one is times 9.46, meaning it would pay me $47.30 on my $5 play. So good luck to me and good luck to you. You want to download Sleeper, play along with me. Use promo code DLLS Mavs when you sign up. Play $5 to get $55 in free plays. Let the fun begin. Download Sleeper today. All right. 19.7 seconds left in this Miami game. Miami just comes away with the ball up 1. Looks like they call a timeout.
George Niang just had a chance to be a hero. Missed the shot.
Oh, no.
Little hook shot in the paint.
Oh, no. Road teams in the play-in so far doing very well. Miami winning. Mavs winning. Miami might win again.
Yeah, they would be the first 10 seed to make it out of the play-in tournament.
Will we make it 2 tonight?
We're going to find out.
Potentially how they could. Let's run down a few X factors. We've already talked about one of them, but I'll save him for the end because he's one of my favorite players in the NBA. Scottie Pippen Jr., X factor number 1, Tim. Not only because if Ja is in any way kind of hobbled, slow, debilitated, then Pippen becomes their best ball handler, potentially the best playmaker, depending on how you feel about Desmond Bane as a passer and a driver. But more importantly, if the Mavs are going to play either no guards or Brandon Williams as their only guard, Pippen's on-ball defense, his tenacity, his penchant for poking away balls, forcing steals, creating turnovers, getting on the open floor and running could be really, really disruptive against a Mavs team that doesn't have a lot of quality ball handlers tonight.
Sometimes I look at Scottie Pippen Jr. and I'm like, and I think he's better, but like, why isn't Dennis Smith in the NBA? You know, like there really is value in a defense first point guard. And I know point guard is, like Memphis obviously does not want Ja to be limited and Scottie Pippen to be running their show, but he's a really competent player. He could go out there even if Ja's limited and have a really big night for them. Like he has been a spot starter who has, my definition of spot starter isn't just like someone that you put in to start. It's like somebody who can provide starter production, here and there. Not every night, but like they have that capability. They have more of a ceiling, that you can trust them to step in and not just kind of do what you would expect from them in a smaller role, but kind of raise the ceiling on that. So Scottie Pippen is capable of that. He's, it's also possible he's just not able to do it, and is not able to handle the size or really get to the rim that really bothers him. But yeah, I'm very curious to see if Memphis does try to disrupt the ball handlers, especially in this no point guard lineup that Dallas is starting with. Certainly, Sacramento tried. It did not really work in any way. Scottie Pippen is a little bit more talented at causing that disruption, but yeah, we'll see how that plays out.
He is, of course, starting alongside Ja, Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Zach Edey. Pippen shot 4 of 9 from 3 against the Mavs this year. That's 44.4%. That is pretty spooky as well. The more shots go down, the less paint packing you can do, and that could be spooky against a Ja Morant team. Brandon Williams for the Mavs. Obviously, we've talked a lot about him this season, Tim. Forged his own path, secured a future for himself in the league. Great story. Had a fantastic game against the Kings. Came in whenever the Mavs started kind of cold before Clay got going and knocked down a couple threes himself. Bench scoring could be huge. I mean, Clay could go 5 of 6 from 3 or 1 of 6. The Mavs are going to need shooting. They're going to need offense. They're going to need creation from somebody. Brandon Williams could be the guy.
Yeah, he's the only guy on the team that I think really has.
Hang on. Kevin Gray, you're on vacation, buddy. You're on vacation. Go enjoy the vacation. I don't know what Westgate is, but I hope you're enjoying your vacation. Kevin Gray is out in Vegas. Stop spending time with us. Go enjoy your vacation, man.
Shoo, this is like that scene from Old Yeller, or is it?
Is
it where the red fern grows?
Who can say?
There's one of those like classic
such
American
relatable
novels where they have to
references that you
shoo the
make
dog
here.
away, or maybe the horse.
Kevin isn't a dog. Kevin is my friend.
He's got that dog in him.
He does.
Yeah,
He does.
yeah. So
Brandon Williams. Sorry.
oh right, yeah. He just like quintessential first step guy. Like Dallas doesn't have any speed on the roster, except for Brandon Williams, and that matters. That stands out. There's still going to be players at the rim for Memphis for the most part. But he has shown that he will take threes when he's open. He's very rarely looking to pass up a spot up attempt, which is absolutely credit to him. I remember might have been December or November. Jason Kidd just randomly threw him out there one game, and he got, it was like a 2-minute stint, and they had a bunch of players out, and he had a couple open shots from the corner, and he missed them. And obviously that wasn't indicative, a 2-minute stint. When you weren't getting rotation minutes, it's not indicative of, your shooting talent and ability, but it is something that he's grown into the NBA and the role. And I think that's really important for Dallas, especially as they still struggle to take enough threes. I think the dynamism of Brandon Williams does really stand out.
Dynamicismicity. Hawks with the ball down 6.1 seconds left. They burn their final timeout.
Oh, Hero missed one?
If you're Miami, do you foul up 2 to get a chance at the buzzer beater? Create a little bit of a challenge, create a little bit of drama.
No.
I think it would be funny. I think more teams should do that. Foul up 2. Yes, Hero did miss one, and that could have potentially sealed the game. KG says that he's watching from a sports book and hotel. If you're in the sports book, KG, you know what you always tell me: scared money don't make money. Show us your slip.
Show the slip.
Rockfist asks, do we still record episodes during the offseason? Yep, 5 days a week. Rain, sleet, snow, winning, losing, doesn't matter.
And I think, Rockfist, I think you asked about the watch along, although maybe Tanner answered your question. But yeah, different YouTube stream that will be up on our feed and live as soon as this ends.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Final X Factor, we talked about him earlier. He is Super John's Esty himself, Jay Huff. Now, Memphis this season ranks second in the league in points of the paint per game at 56. The Mavs, of course, ranked second from the bottom in the league in points in the paint allowed per game at 52.8. So that would lead you to believe that Zach Edey would be the preferred big man. Jaren Jackson has quite a bit of driving ability too, attacking closeouts on the perimeter and whatnot. But Tim, you mentioned Santi Aldama. We talked about Jay Huff too. The Grizzlies do have some bigs that can shoot. Hang on, is Trey going to do this?
Yep,
he does. Holy mackerel! If we go to overtime, is this starting on True TV or what? They're going to interrupt Impractical Jokers for Mavs Grizzlies?
I think they're going to put it on OWN.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Hopefully we get whatever channel it is. That would be pretty tough.
Well,
to
it's
do
the
it.
Oprah Winfrey Network.
I don't know what channels we have on this. I'm not familiar.
I'm kidding. I don't think they're going to put it there. They're going to put it Nick at Night.
Okay.
It's such a comedy.
So if the Grizzlies decide to space, if let's say that Gafford and Lively and AD are just like putting Zach Edey in prison, and Jaren Jackson just can't get it going, or he gets in foul trouble as he is wont to do, they could say, all right, enough is enough. Screw it. Let's space the floor. And whether it's Huff or Aldama or even both, like that could present a very, very difficult challenge.
Here's the one thing, the huge advantage that I think Memphis has in this matchup, in this game. They can go.
Sorry, the game is on ESPN. Kevin is right. I'm wrong. I am just a dope. Sorry. So we're good no matter what.
Kevin, we're gonna need better from you tonight.
Okay. You're right, Bobby.
Yeah. I love Pokemon.
Shut up.
You know, one time I played Grant Williams at chess.
Did you win?
Yes.
All right. Well, there you go.
Yeah. Memphis can play really big and play 5 out. That's the advantage they have. They can play big ball, 5 out ball, right?
Yes.
And I think that makes this really interesting. And you know, they don't take a ton of threes. Like they're about league average in terms of threes that they take. Not all of their shooters are probably take the volume that they could or the coaching staff would want them to. I'm looking at you, Luke Kennard. Weirdly enough, they are probably more of a 5 out spacing team without Ja. Sorry, I was watching the final shot.
To OT we go.
OT we go.
I'm
like it's like, yeah, if Ja's hobbled, if Ja like just can't, like, I know he's starting, but you know, and I know I only saw 2 seconds of him warming up from a Tim McMahon video that he posted. Didn't see anything explosive, but I also only saw 13 seconds of his warm up. But yeah, they can go full 5 out. They can stay big. Now they're gonna have worse big men, especially if Jay Huff is out there. Although I really like Jay Huff, he's really good. They could play Santi Aldama the 3 if they're just trying to play big ball. And it's like, what, you're gonna have Caleb Martin out there? We don't care about him in the corner. I don't expect that to happen. But they can play really big without sacrificing the shooting. Dallas cannot do that. And, you know, the other thing is, like, they can play bigger than Dallas. That's the whole point of Zach Edey. Is that when Zach Edey and Jaren Jackson are out there, like, they're arguably the more physical, more, you know, they're just the larger team. So there's a lot of flexibility for them to figure it out. But it's also putting a lot of pressure on an interim coach to figure that out on the fly in a do-or-die one-game opportunity. I do think Jason Kidd, clearly, as he should, probably has a better feel for his team than, I forgot how to say his last name.
The Italian guy?
The Italian guy, yeah.
The Italian jab?
Yeah.
Rockfist, I would say if you're trying to get back into Pokemon, I would recommend X or Y.
He was asking me.
No. I would recommend either X or Y because first off, there's the physical special split. Most of the mechanics are up to date. There's Mega Evolution, and also the Fairy type is introduced that gen. So it gives you a really good understanding of the game now. If you started in like Gen 8 or Gen 9, you'd probably just be very confused. Granted, all the games are very easy, but X and Y are probably the easiest in the series.
I would buy a Game Boy DS and play Emerald, like the Lord intended.
That is a good game.
Yeah. Pokemon was not meant to continue into 2025 with new additions.
Tanner, you got
perfect as is.
You got any final takes before we get out of here and start the watch along?
Go Mavs.
Was that a question or a statement?
Both.
Is this it? That was our title card.
Yeah.
Is this it?
Is this it?
Not
Great.
This is it. Is this it? There's
Wait,
only.
I was gonna say it was a great Strokes song by the Strokes, but is this it? Like,
That's a name of an album, I think, isn't it?
yeah.
Where
I don't
did
know
you
if-
land on the cigars?
I did not get cigars.
Oh. Well.
Yeah, I did not get any I feel like I would get in trouble. Plus, what are we supposed to do with the ashes? Well,
I don't
that's
know.
for us to decide off camera. Here's how this is going to work. We are going to start the watch along in a matter of moments. That is going to be on a different stream. So as soon as we end here, back out, go back to our page at DLLS Sports, subscribe if you haven't already, and then you will see the event there. Hop in there. We will put up a little bit of a waiting screen as we get some stuff figured out and wait to see if this fighting thing is actually going to end or not. And once we're all settled in and ready to rock and roll, we will join you for the watch along between the Mavs and the Grizzlies. It is the 8v10 matchup, do or die, win or go home edition. The most exciting and dramatic game all season is about to begin, folks. We will see you there. But before we do, he's Tanner. He's Tim. I'm Bobby. That's Kevin. Y'all are awesome. And
that's you.
And we'll see you in the watch along stream here
You're you.
in a matter of moments on Mavs postseason, presented by Game Time.
See ya.
We all silly like the mayor.